We hope you enjoy this episode of the Modern Arizona podcast. But first, an important message for our listeners.
Hello, this is Billie Tarascio, owner of Modern Law. We're a family law firm in Phoenix, Arizona, with offices throughout the state. We have attorneys who can help you with every aspect of your family law case. We also have a legal clinic run by students for those of you who need budget-friendly resources, and we have lawyers who've been practicing for more than 20 years. Collectively, Modern Law has more than 200 years of legal experience. So when you hire Modern Law, you're not just getting an attorney, you're getting a team. If you live in Arizona and need representation, call us today. That's 480-649-2905 or visit us at mymodernlaw.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Modern Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Billie Tarascio, joined today by financial expert and advisor Jennifer Lee. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Billie.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you are here. Money right now in America is tough for most people. Inflation's doing its thing. Consumer goods are more and more expensive. People are struggling. And I want to talk about that and general financial education. So, what are your thoughts on what's going on with consumer spending and consumer prices?
Well, I think since the pandemic, it's been very frustrating because prices just continue and continue to go up, and wages don't necessarily match those. And the working person, the average working household, is has less money in their pocket than they did before. And prior, they probably weren't that far ahead of the curveball to begin with. So savings have been tapped into.
Yeah, it was like during COVID, the government pumped all this money into houses. And I think people's savings were at an all-time high. And then the prices of everything went nuts. And I don't think I actually understand why. Do you understand why?
Well, there certainly it goes back to supply and demand, and the cost of producing those goods and getting those items out to our to our supermarkets and our grocery stores, and the costs have just gone up to produce those items.
Mm,
So things are inflated
hmm
in terms of our access
hmm
and pricing
hmm
power.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about like the other thing that has happened really since 2008, but really accelerated very recently on a macro level is the income distribution and the wealth distribution gap. Um, but I don't know how I ended up picking up a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it is talking about the laws of money
Mhm.
and teaching the laws of money. And it got me thinking, wow, like if people don't understand the laws of money, they're never going to be able to acquire it and accumulate. They might have more wages, they might have more spending power, but they're never going to be able to accumulate wealth.
There's a lack of financial education and awareness out there for sure. The lion's share of the people that I speak with are, they might be educated in one part of money, but certainly not in all of it. They may know how to make it, but they might not know how to keep it. They know how to spend it, but other people don't know how to make it. And if you have a regular job where you just have a salary and there's no bonus opportunity, there's no commission opportunity, there's no growth opportunity, then you're stuck within the compounds of the money that you make. So if you have money coming in, you have expenses going out. The only way you're going to get ahead is by saving money, right? Not spending it all. And I think the average American spends everything they have and sometimes more, and accumulates debt, and it's terrifying when they get close to retirement.
Well, what are the laws of money?
Well, it's funny, Billy. I have read The Richest Man in Babylon, but it's been years, so I couldn't tell you what the book says the laws of
Mhm.
money are.
Right, right.
I can tell you if you want to refresh me on them, maybe I can hit upon them specifically. I From my perspective, I think there's some fundamentals around money. I always say financial planning is simple. It's what do you have and what do you want? You need to understand what is your income, what are your assets, what are your resources, and what do you want that to do for you? So, do you want to educate your kids? Do you want to save for retirement? Do you want to live in a beautiful beach property? What is it that you want? The in between is the job of the advisor, hopefully in partnership with the client, to help make good decisions to facilitate what you want. Um, and again, going back to, if you just have a job, you need to understand what is your discretionary number. So what kind of funds do you have at your discretion, right? So what does that mean? That means you have, let's call it $5,000 of income coming in a month. You have a mortgage, you have gasoline for your car, you have a car payment, you have insurance, you have the kids camp, you have all these things, groceries. What's left of your fixed expenses? Whatever's left is at your discretion. Do you take the kids for ice cream and to a baseball game? Do you go get your nails done? Do you take a course and study to get yourself ahead? Do you save money for retirement? That's what we get to choose. Americans forget that we have the opportunity to choose what we do with that discretionary money.
One of the principles of the book is that money is not finite, that it can always be grown and expanded, and resources can be grown and expanded. And through individual efforts and ingenuity, you're able to create more wealth. Now, is that just a Ronald Reagan trickle down economics theory, or is that legit? Because I think this book was written in 1926.
I think that I think that we are all a consequence of our experiences, right? And what we've read and who we've been influenced by, what our parents taught us, what our teachers taught us, what any mentor has done. I am a believer that you can have anything you want. And I learned that from my dad as a young person, as a little person, right? I don't think that you can grab a 26-year-old and tell them they can have anything they want when they've never known that. It's harder. It's an uphill battle. Um, I just recently have an 11-year-old young man who is the son of a young lady that I know, and he wanted to talk about finance and money, and he calls me Aunt Jen, and he says, "You mean Aunt Jen can talk to me about my business idea and my money, and you think I can get an appointment?" And he had 2 pages of questions, which
Wow.
feeds my soul, right?
Yeah.
It absolutely feeds me. So we had a meeting and talked about all his questions. And, here's a young person who knows that he wants stuff. He's not unwilling to work for it. And he wants to gather information to figure out how he can do it more efficiently. He's 11, right? Bravo for him, right? If
Bravo
I
for
can
him.
if I can
Bravo
get
for
it,
his parents.
yeah. Well, and his parents didn't necessarily teach him that. This is inside of him. He wants to learn. And so I'm very excited for him, and we're going to continue to have some appointments to discuss, his aspirations. But I think, it's a matter of what do you want, really? What do you want, and what are you willing to do to get it? When I first had my very first job, I was in accounting, and it only paid the rent and a couple of things, and it didn't give me pocket money. So I waited tables on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I had another $400 a week in my pocket. Right? What are you willing to do? My friends are out partying. I had $400, and then I went and had a drink with them.
Mhm.
So it's your choice, right? life is about choices, and I think there is unlimited opportunity. We live in a fantastic country, and there's 1,000 different side hustles you could have if you really wanted it.
There is, I mean, I've got a lot of cousins in Italy. That world does not have the opportunity that this world has. Like, we do have opportunity, and we hear so much about the first stuff I was talking about, how expensive it is, how you can't get ahead, how there's corporate greed. And the downside of spending our focus on that is that it does not change our position at all. And the upside of kind of focusing on what are these laws of money? How do I master them? How do I get ahead?
Mhm.
If we could get more people in the how do I get ahead headspace, the economy would be in better shape, the individuals would be in better shape, and that's honestly, it's all we can do. Because we can't fix, you know, global supply chain issues or economic issues. So you work with people who are working on growing and creating and setting those goals. How do you usually do that?
So, I work with a lot of different people. I work with a lot of people in transition. So usually the things are disruptive, and we need to create a path forward and create a plan in terms of how they're going to draw income off of their assets.
Mm,
In other cases, I work with business owners as they're accumulating money. So, what are the things that we can do in terms of strategies that are going to help them from a tax perspective? Make help them make good decisions. So this morning, I was on a call with a client, and she's in what I call crunch time. She is in that last 10 years of working, and you can make a colossal financial mistake
mhm,
during that time. It's not a good time to make a big mistake. It's
mhm,
great that you make a financial mistake when you're in your 20s. You can
mhm.
rebound. It's no problem. You have time on your side. But we help people make sound financial decisions based on what they're trying to accomplish, what their resources are, and then is it viable? Is the thing they're thinking viable? So we act as a sounding board, as a coach, and then ultimately providing financial advice. My statement at the end of the call is, okay, so you're not going to buy a second house. We've agreed today that you're not going to do that. You're going to continue to fund your retirement when interest rates come down and you decide where you're going to want to live ultimately in retirement. We'll revisit this conversation.
Mhm.
So you just try to help people facilitate through those decisions, and then help them with the boring things, asset allocation and the distribution of their assets, and how they're gonna create income off of their investments, those kind of things.
Those were part of the laws. So the laws were, I mean, first you had this concept that money and opportunity and wealth is ever expanding, and
Mhm.
you can have some. I think the second was like you have to learn how to keep your money, pay yourself first, like, and then you have to make that money work for you. And that's really where you come in.
Exactly. So let me reframe that in present day, right? So you gotta be able to take your look at your resources coming in, figure out what that money is at your discretion, and decide to save some of it. That's what the book means by pay yourself first. Okay. So you put some money aside for shorter term goals, midterm goals, and then the long term future. I like to use the analogy of when you're doing these things for your goals, we're building little machines. Okay. So
Mm.
every time you put money in your 401k or in your investment account for the future, we're adding nuts and bolts to this machine. And the idea is that when you're ready to retire, you call us, hopefully at least 6 months before, and you say, I'm going to want to turn on my machine. Okay. So then we're going to be able to turn on your assets because they've been building and working over here for your benefit next to you, right? While you're working, they're also working. When you turn off the light switch at work and you go home and we turn on your machine, it's going to kick out income. Now, it's only going to kick out as much income as that machine can generate. If you start taking more, you're destroying the machine or you're making it less efficient. You're taking nuts and bolts from it. It kicks out less money each year. Eventually, you're going to run out of money. If you only take the earnings off of that machine or the dividends and interest off of your investment accounts, your machine is going to continue to expand and grow, and the income can go up. That's really what I hope makes a little bit of sense in talking about accumulating assets, protecting them, and then living off the earnings.
Mm-hmm. And the machine actually starts working way before retirement, right?
For sure.
But the income that it's creating ideally is just going back in to make it bigger.
It's reinvested into the machine, and it does grow in size next to you.
So, how much money are people needing to retire? And I know that it depends is the answer, I know, but do your best.
Right, right. Well, I'm about as straightforward as they come. So it does depend on how you want to live, right? So I like to use the sample number of, if I need $50,000 of income annually, and I want that to last for my entire life, and I'm not tapping into the principle of my machine, I need $1 million machine. Okay. So that's not to say that in years like last year, your machine might have produced 16%. Okay. In a high year, in a good year, you could take a little bit more if you want. But in a year like 2022, where your machine was negative 16%, if you take from it, that machine's going to shrink down. So when we use a number like 4 or 5%, we're trying to protect the efficacy of that machine, right? And the long-term components of it. So if you bank on, hey, give or take, I'm only going to take 5% off of this asset, that's your answer. So you want 100 grand, you need $2 million. Now, if you work for the government, if you have a pension plan, if you have Social Security, that also contributes to your machine. So I have a client right now who has a $5,000 a month pension from working for the SEC for many, many years. $5,000 a month, that's great.
Right.
Think about it. That's like $1.2 million of a machine. Okay, so that's already kicking out that money. Of course, the pension goes away upon death. Your machine would go to your legacy, to your heirs, to your beneficiaries, or to a charity.
This is Billie Tarascio, owner of Win Without Law School and Modern Law. Win Without Law School is a program that operates nationally and helps people who are representing themselves or who just need more help. If you are in a family court case and you're feeling confused, you need direction, you need help figuring out questions to procedural or strategic issues, Win Without Law School can help. At Win Without Law School, you've got two experienced attorneys, me and my partner, Julie Lebenz, who can guide you through the court process and help you troubleshoot your case. You've got access to courses, planners, checklists, and live Q&A. Our live Q&A is where you can get help from us and your community. We also have a closed Facebook group just for members where you all can share your experience, share your pleadings, get advice, and mentorship. Join us today at winwithoutlawschool.com. That's winwithoutlawschool.com. $1 million might sound really unachievable for some people. How do you address that?
So it's not as hard as you think. And certainly the sooner you start, the better, right? So if I knew what I know now at 54, I would have been saving a lot more of my money in my 20s, right? Because we talked about that money working for you. It's that compounding. In the Richest Man in Babylon, do they talk about the penny?
I'm maybe, but I haven't gotten there.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think there's a story. It's either in that book or I think it might be in that book. But they talk about, if I offered to give you a penny right now and they'll double it every day, would you rather that, or would you rather give you $1,000?
Mm,
And most people say, I'll take $1,000. Well, if
mhm.
you take a penny and you multiply it, I mean, it's millions of dollars, right? So
Wow.
you have money compounding. Okay. So your money in that machine is working for you because it's building on itself. So think of it as you have a job, you're working, or you're in sales and you're making commissions, but then your money is also over here working as well. So it's two things working.
Mhm.
So how do you get to that $1,000,000? You determine what's important to you, and you save some money. You pay yourself first. You invest it so that it has the opportunity to grow, and your assets are going to come from different places. They're going to come from Social Security. They're going to come from equity in your home. They're going to come from savings in a Roth IRA and your 401k. I always say get your free money. If your employer has a retirement plan, make sure you get your free money. Um, why would you not? If you put
Right.
3% in and they're going to give you 3%, it's 100% on your money.
Right. Yeah. So let's say somebody is going through a divorce and they are choosing between home equity and retirement funds. How would you advise them to think about that decision?
Sure. Um, that happens often.
Right.
And it often happens that the non-moneyed party, the person who hasn't had a lot of experience with money, thinks they want the house. And so in my business, we could be all technical, but I'm a little bit more holistic in nature. I need to understand why it is you need to stay in that house, and are you willing to um, to be house poor and not be able to do other things with your kids? Is that really what you want to do? Because I want to translate the resources into what your life is going to look like. Because it's very emotional just to say, "I want to keep the house." Well, but does that make sense for you and what your life is going to be like? Is your ex going to be able to take the kids skiing in Aspen, but you're stuck with the house and they can only play in the backyard because you don't have any extra money? So it really depends. Do you need to downsize? All those things. So equity in the house um, versus IRA assets. IRA assets are going to be, if you liquidated them and you're not 59 and a half, you may have a penalty. You're certainly going to have tax implications because you previously tax deducted those. Versus if you got divorced and you took all the equity in the house, you waited, 5 minutes till after the divorce, and you sold your house and had that capital gain, it's probably mostly tax free.
Mhm.
I don't think, I like to think of divorces as positively as we could possibly make it. You split assets down the middle. You divide your IRAs. You probably should retain some of everything, but most importantly, how are you going to live, whether it's in that house or elsewhere?
Got it. Okay. So it's not a simple analysis. And
Well, the
what,
black and white is that the equity in the house you can't use, and
right,
the retirement accounts maybe you can't use until you're 59 and a half,
right,
and you have to make it.
right. Yeah. And what a lot of people are facing right now is I can't afford a different housing payment. I'm currently at 2% or 3% interest, and I can't get something else.
It's very true. It's very true because interest rates are offensively high, and maybe one of the parties was the stay-at-home parent, and there's no income history. So now you're
Yeah.
you're relying on alimony, if there is some, and that's not the easiest thing to do your finances for a mortgage.
Right, right. And unfortunately can't always count on it.
No,
So It's not the best source of income to count on. But when interest rates are high, it's great for stocks. You've got the stocks raising, and it's kind of bad for real estate. Does that mean people should consider renting?
I think if somebody is going through divorce right now, it is definitely a consideration. I look at the numbers, and then
Mhm.
I look at the emotions of it, and
Mhm.
and I do the math, talk to the client about it, and I say, okay, is it worth $500 more out of your pocket to be in this place
Mhm.
versus can you save that $500 and in 2 years put that down on another place? How important is it to you right now emotionally? So I think in numbers, so I have to think. So I try to break that down for clients so they can say, well, it's really important to me. I have to be there, and it means the world to. Okay, does it mean, is it worth $500 and you can't go out, for wine with your girlfriends? Okay, but know that.
I
Know that.
really like
Don't.
that a lot. I really like that a lot. Like quantifying the decisions.
Yeah.
How much does this decision cost me? Ooh.
Yeah.
So tell me about who you typically work with and how you work with them.
Sure. I work with two groups of people, primarily women in financial transition, going through divorce, recently widowed. My job is to help them assess what they have, take a minute to breathe, take a look at what their future could and would look like in this process, and then help them make good decisions so that they can go forward with confidence. Um, I often work with them in that process. And we're working with a lady right now who recently lost her husband. He handled all the money. She's certainly capable. She's an intelligent woman. She's 76 years old. She just really doesn't care, doesn't want to know about it. I said, well, you have to know some. I have to be able to talk to you about what you have, what you want, talk about tax implications, legacy planning, all these things. And then you can make good decisions, and then you can forget about it until we meet again. I'll remind you what we did and why we did it. So I work with clients like that and going through divorce. And then I work with another group of people, which are business owners who are that 5 to 10 years from retirement. So they built up a business. They're in what I call the crush it years. They're really making good money, and they're paying way too much in tax, and it's uncomfortable. So we discuss and strategize about how to shelter money, so that they can have good exit strategies in that 8 to 10 year window.
Got it. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We will make sure that people know how they can get a hold of you. And I have really enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Jennifer.
Nice meeting with you.
Nice meeting with you too. Thanks so much for listening to the Modern Arizona podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, make sure to download it, like it, leave a review, and share it with your friends. If you know someone who would be a good guest or you would like to be on the Modern Arizona podcast, make sure to give us an email or reach out to us at mymodernlaw.com.